done, performing, you're at your highest peak, the team did everything that it's supposed to be doing, and then adjourning is just the conclusion to everything that you've been doing. Not all teams reach the adjourning stage because some teams are just, for example, if you're working for a company, you're in a team type of environment, that never ends, but if you're in a group project, you would reach adjourning. And that's it.
Are you making a new clip, or are you leaving? Okay. All right, so my name is Zach, and I think we can all agree that leadership is a really important part of teamwork. We've talked about it before in this presentation, but now we're going to really break it down. So leadership, I think a lot of people assume it's about who you are, what your title is, but really, you know, the guy on the left, my left, could be a leader. The guy on the right, he could be a leader too. It's about what you do. So leaders, they're kind of like geese in that when geese fly in their V shape, the goose at the front, when he flaps his wings, it sort of keeps the other geese lifted up, and it's sort of a chain reaction. So the leader is helping all of the other geese stay afloat. So leaders help their group members achieve their goals. And the ultimate goal of any team is successfully performing your task. So leaders are in a key position where they facilitate that success and try and make sure that groups are as successful as they can be. So there are certain traits that leaders should have in order to be as effective as possible. So I think the first one is really they should be able to evaluate their performance and the performance of their group members. So maybe they say, well, I could have handled this situation better today, or you know, the group could have communicated better today. And the ultimate goal of self-reflecting is to implement positive change, to make your group better, to perform better, and make the changes you need to make. That sort of ties into another trait that leaders need, in that they need to know their group so that they can make this positive change. So leaders need to fit in, essentially. That can be coming from the same background as the people in your group, so maybe a more senior engineer leads a group of engineers. That could be just getting to know the people in your group, but ultimately fitting in is key to making the changes you need to make. You could also value the contributions of other members of your group, get to know them as people. That makes them more comfortable. Ultimately, this ties into being an optimistic leader. When you're dealing with individuals in your group, the leader is going to have to is going to talk to them about their self-doubt. Maybe they have an issue. Maybe they have a conflict with another group member. Leaders are there to say that, yes, you can do it, and sort of cast aside this self-doubt and make sure that the team stays effective and productive. A happy team, an optimistic team is a happy team, which is a cohesive team, and cohesive teams can work together as effectively as possible to be as successful as possible. Now, there are a couple different types of leaders, and they sort of exist on a sort of like a line. It's like a spectrum. I think on one extreme there is authoritative leaders. So they are sort of the center of attention. They make all the decisions. They don't really allow members of the group to give their opinions and have input. They sort of direct everyone. And I think this sounds bad on paper, but there are situations where it works, such as in high-stress situations. So, you know, an infantryman is going to need to focus on staying alive, watching his fellow soldiers' backs, where they have a squad leader that can focus on things like tactics and their overall objective. So that sort of allows group members to focus on their individual tasks. And then groups that desperately need a leader but don't have one can also benefit from authoritative leaders, because they can sort of stop the disarray, get everyone back on track, focus on making the changes needed, and then they can switch to a different style later on once things are back on track. Another style that's sort of a mid-ground approach is democratic leadership. So that's where the central figure sort of takes input from all of the other group members and combines it into sort of a cohesive idea. The different group members, they have a say, and for a lot of groups that's important. The benefit to this group is that it can increase group members' morale. So again, happier group members, they're going to work better together, they're going to be more productive, they're going to be successful. It also helps develop the creativity of the different group members. So if group members get a chance to bounce their ideas off of one another and have a say, they can critique other group members' ideas, everyone can learn from each other, and ultimately everyone in the group is growing along the path to completing their goals. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum from authoritative leaders, there's laissez-faire leaders, and they're completely hands-off. All these sorts of leaders are really there for is to take responsibility for the group, and if needed, at the request of the group, step in and settle disputes or help to solve an issue or whatnot. Again, this one seems like it's not a great thing, but it can be beneficial in groups where it's entirely made up of experts. So say a business major is hired to be the leader of a group of engineers. Maybe that business major takes a hands-off approach, lets the engineers work out their problems, and sort of solve the problem, and if they need to step in, they can step in. So now, that sort of begs the question as to whether or not leaders are important, because if you have a hands-off leader, maybe you might as well not have one. Well, leaders, regardless of how hands-on they are, they can increase group cohesion. They're there to do that, because groups are about working together. Leaders aren't necessarily in control. They're supposed to help everyone work together. On the other hand, groups can have sort of like a collective responsibility where they don't really need a central figure. They succeed or fail as a group. They all take responsibility for the outcome. And that can work too. I think that tends to work better in sort of the laissez-faire outcome, but with or the laissez-faire style with lower stakes, where everyone just puts together what part of the puzzle they need to, and that's end of story. Like with this group, I mean, we really didn't need a leader. We all had our sections. We determined who's doing what. We put our presentations together, and here we are. We didn't need a leader. So at the end of the day, leaders are really important towards having a successful group. And if, I think you can think about maybe we need to change our leadership style or change our group dynamic and integrate leadership into making your groups more successful in the future. That's it.
So my name is Jenna. I'm going to go into a little bit of an in-depth discussion about JL and Zach's topics. I'm going to do what makes an effective team. So I'm going to discuss communication, and are you actively listening to your team members and your employees and your customers, or are you communicating with them? Do you have a diverse team? Do you have a lot of different views and opinions coming in? Do you have respect for your team? Do they have respect for you? And are you able to build rapport with anyone that comes in through your door? Having an effective team makes a successful company, which is a very key component. So if you don't have a successful team and you don't have the communication skills that you need, you're not going to be able to succeed in anything you do. So there's different types of communication skills you can use that's seen on the board. Just to talk about a few of them, I'm going to do conducting training. By having training, you're able to give the employees the skills that your company is desired and what you want them to have, which will ultimately lead to a better management, which is going to help with the communication because they were brought up on the skills that you wanted them to have, which means they will be able to discuss and confront situations appropriately as well as effectively. So the ultimate goal of teamwork is success. By having diversity, open-mindedness, and implementing the skills from everyone, you allow to have your team to work as one unified group, which is what everyone is looking for. You have everyone coming in from different views and different opinions, and they can't get one unified idea together. They will never be able to move to the different stages, like Jael discussed earlier. So it's very important to be able to form an idea, take the idea, listen to your coworkers, listen to your employees and your teams, and be able to bring the discussion into one so you can further grasp the opinion that you're discussing. If you aren't listening to your employees, you can have miscommunication, which will ultimately lead to a conflict, a possible conflict in the end because you may have not understood something. Were you actually actively listening, Or were you just kind of listening and you went to discuss it with a different employee or a different employer or your boss and you didn't really understand what you were talking about, and then you misunderstood what they were saying, which causes a conflict. You're not sure what's going to happen now because you might have said something that wasn't actually appropriate or wasn't true. So if you're not actually sure how to approach a decision because you're faced with a decision, you don't know what to do, there's some steps behind me that you can use to follow, such as making a pros and cons list. That allows you to have right in front of you what will be beneficial, what will not be beneficial, what will help, what won't help. This will help your company succeed in any decision that you're trying to make. An important part of working with the company is building rapport, whether it's with employees, customers, anyone that you're working with. Yes, that is funny, I apologize. But it's very important because if you can't build rapport, you can't get on a level of understanding. Understanding is very important when you are working with people. It allows you to have a mutual friendship, a mutual trust. You need to build trust with your employees, with your customers. Who succeeds without having trust? I'm not going to buy a product from you if I don't believe it, if I don't trust the product. If I can't talk to you and communicate with you, and you can't give me information about the product that makes me want to buy it and reuse it, I'm not going to come back to you. So having rapport with your employees is more important than with your customers, because if you cannot get your employees on board with you, you're not going to have a business. You're going to have nothing. You're not going to be able to do anything. So you need to build a rapport. You need to trust your employees that they can do what you're asking them to, that you can teach them and have the ability to show them what you're trying to do with their company to succeed. And if you have a little bit of self-doubt and you're not really sure what to do, there's a great picture behind me that allows you to do it. It tells you. Genuine. Be genuine. Make sure you're actually engaging with them. You're not sitting on your laptops or your phones and just pretending to act like you're listening to my presentation about teamwork. That you're using their names, that you're engaging with them. That diversity doesn't matter because it's important that you're all coming together. That everyone has an opinion, everyone has an idea, and it's all as equal as anyone else's. So my idea is just as important as the person sitting over there. Hers might be better, his might add to mine, which makes a better idea, which gives us the idea that ultimately leads us to the goal that we were trying to reach in a company. So, if you have teams and you have different people from different backgrounds, genders, ethnicities, it is all important and relative to a successful team. They may bring something to the table that you may not necessarily thought of because you weren't brought up that way or you don't have that process of thinking. So by having different thoughts, different opinions, it will ultimately lead to a successful goal, which is what everyone desires. No one wants to fail. No one wants their team to fail. I would love if I could actually just make my team successful by me alone, but it's a group effort. Not one person can make success. It is built by many people doing it all at once. And you can't have success without respect. So, when you're in a business and you're working with someone, I don't like everyone. I don't like many people, actually, but I respect them. It is part of my job to respect people. I am going into my job respecting people because it is important, it is expected of me, and it is my way of showing that I value their opinion because it is as important as my opinion, like I said earlier. To have respect is the glue. It holds everyone together. If I don't have respect for you and you don't have respect for me, even if I have a great idea, you might be biased against me and be like, you know what, I don't actually like her idea. But you might not like my idea because I don't respect you. So if you have a disrespect in the workplace, you're going to have a high turnover rate. You're not going to have a great reputation for your company. And if you don't have a good reputation, you're not going to have customers. So ultimately, you're going to have a loss of a company. You're going to fail. No one wants to fail. You need teamwork to bring your team together, respect to show that you care about people. And if you don't have it, you're going to end up with these people screaming at each other in a workplace, unprofessional. It's not teamwork. It's showing that you don't care about people, that you don't care about the company, and you don't care if you succeed. Do you want people to think you don't succeed? No. Everyone wants to succeed. And there's simple steps that you can take that allow you to succeed. There's steps, there's tips, there's such as identifying an issue, agreeing to evaluations, even if you don't know how to do it yourself. Bring in your boss, bring in a manager, someone to help, a third-party person to help you get you through the situation if you can't get through yourself. So try and do it yourself. If you can't, bring in a person to help you become an effective member of the team in your workplace. Thank you.
Air's kind of thin up there sometimes, yeah?
No.
Breathe in a little bit. No, you're good to go.
I'm not getting an ambulance or something.
Yeah.
That's all you want from me.
Or have an asthma attack.